Electric Cafe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. In this video I wanted to share a new track by an artist called Number 9, and the track's called Acid Blues. Number 9 is a French producer. He goes by his real name is actually Guillaume Ulrich Chiffot. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I failed French class, so excuse my pronunciation if it was wrong, which it probably was. But Number 9, you know, Guillaume's been doing music since the late 80s. He started out doing new beat and techno, and you know, he's kind of an acquaintance online, and he kindly sent me his new single here, Acid Blues, and there's also a dub remix as well that I wanted to share both tracks on this video. And down below in the notes section, you'll see a link to his bandcamp page if you like to purchase it and or share his music. I really think strongly of this track, and so I wanted to present it here in the video. So we're going to get a chance to check out the track right now, and then we'll also hear the remix, and then I'll come back to you at the end with my thoughts. And again, this is Number 9. The track's called Acid Blues, the original version, and then it'll be followed up by the dubbed version, and it comes out on Number 9, Guillaume's own label. And again, the link will be down below. So yeah, let's check out Acid Blues.
moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain. I'm to die. Don't wanna go.
21st century.
So there we got a chance to check out Acid Blues by the artist called Number 9. And we also heard the dub version. So the original version is really excellent track. I really enjoy it. And it kind of threw me off at first because when that acid line comes in, it's just a very deep acid line. And it's a very slow pace track for being an acid techno track. So when I saw it was described as acid techno, I thought it was going to be kind of faster and not slower. And I actually kind of like it on the slower side, and especially when I hear that deep acid sound and that deep acid line, it reminds me of like Hard Floor, and also maybe like Air Liquid. So when I heard that acid line, I was thinking it was gonna be like layered, and another acid line would come up, and then it would sort of explode possibly into a more of an acid trance or acid techno track, just be big. And especially when I saw it was like verging on like almost 9 minutes, I figured it was gonna be like a big acid techno track. And to my surprise and to my liking, it stayed more in the sweet spot and smoother. And I really like the pace of the track. I certainly love the Kraftwerk sample, 21st Century from Planet of the Visions track from Kraftwerk. And then of course it has the samples from Blade Runner, which is always a great thing to sample in techno and ambient music. And of course it's the part where the tears in the rain part, which is a great part to sample as well. That's been sampled so many times, and it's so perfect every time. I can't knock it, even when somebody else uses it. You're like, oh, that's a great part to sample into a sci-fi track. And the really kind of key thing about the track to me is the piano. And for some reason, because Guillermo's from France, but also hearing that sort of melody and the melancholy way that the piano is coming in, it sounds very French to me. And it's possibly because of his new beat background, because this track could definitely been made in like 1990, and I wouldn't have thought twice about it, except for a little bit of the acid line. I mean, if it was 1990, the acid line would certainly be ahead of its time. But as far as like the piano and the pacing and the percussion and everything like that, it just kind of screams kind of a vintage kind of new beat kind of chill out track. Something that would be on like ZYX back in Germany in like 1989 or 1990. So I really like just the entire track and the pacing of it, and it has kind of like it kind of verges on deep house, and maybe that's because the second version is a little bit deeper in sort of pace. But sometimes I don't think techno because it's kind of a slower BPM, but I'm always happy because generally when I see like a acid techno track, or something, a track with acid in the title, I don't get necessarily bummed out, but I kind of expect like a overdone acid line in a acid house track, and something verging on like 1987, and and sort of that vintage style of acid house. And to be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of that time. It's a little bit before me. I consider that sort of the first generation of rave. I consider myself the sort of second generation of rave, around the 89 to 94 period. That's kind of my wheelhouse. And 86, 87, although I like a lot of the house sounds in there, and especially some of the deeper house that started there, like Larry Heard and stuff like that, and Jesse Saunders, and of course all the Detroit guys. But a lot of times when I see acid house in the description, I'm thinking it's going to be just kind of a drum machine with a big acid track, and it just kind of be over the top, and that be it. But I'm so happy to hear a track that has acid line in it, and it's reserved, and it's supporting the track. Like I really feel that some of my favorite acid trance track, acid ambient tracks, acid techno tracks, acid line are always the supporting. When it goes over the top for me, when acid lines go over the top and become the main focus for a long period of time, I unless it's very, very well done, it's very rare that I can think of. And that's kind of why I mentioned Air Liquid and Heartful. There's some of the ones that are, Acid Junkies, stuff like that. Those are some artists that, still do a great job of that through the entire track, but because they're so good at developing a track and the rhythm of it, and just perfectly detailed and, very, very detailed tracks, and, the little things make such a big difference, and the way they pace the tracks, it's so perfect. But those are veterans of the sound as well, and certainly number 9 here, Guillaume, is as well, because he makes a slower techno track in at almost 9 minutes, and I swear I think I've heard this track 3 or 4 times over last night and then now, and it doesn't feel like that long. Like, it feels like it could keep going on for a couple more minutes, and it's just so smooth. And again, often when I see acid in the title, I think it might be kind of, but this exceeded my expectation. And then also, it's perfectly named because it's Acid Blues, and that's such a perfect name for the track, because I think that's what makes the track work for me, because it's kind of got that melancholy balance of the acid, and it's kind of more on the down tempo, and it's a perfect kind of Balearic kind of deep house mixing in a little bit of techno and vintage style. Even the new beat influence, I'm sure, is probably in there, but really excellent track, really, really good stuff. And then the dub version, just stripped down a little bit, but in some ways it's a perfect alternate version. It's smoother, a little deeper, maybe a little bit more sexy. It's maybe a little bit closer to deep house, and it's also a little bit haunting, because it has that sort of woodwind instrument just with the beat and the bass line, and then comes in that Planet of Visions sample of the 21st Century again, and you can just kind of tell it's a version of that. So if you hadn't heard the original for a couple weeks or months or something like that, you wouldn't necessarily know it's that track unless you knew it well, until it kind of hits that Planet of Visions. But that slow acid line is so key to the track, and it's just kind of what makes the track. But that piano just really takes over the top for me, and just a perfect alternate version. And again, the alternate version doesn't have the piano, but the original version, like with the piano, just takes it over the top. So that original track is just a mind blower. But the dub version is a great alternate version. So really good stuff. And thanks to Guillaume for sending me the track. Really appreciate it. I wanted to share it on this video here. And down below you can see his label called Number 9, and if you'd like to hear more from him, he's got a lot of new beat and even some EBM stuff, and techno and such like that. So check out his label, and check out more of his music. Definitely good stuff. So again, thanks to Guillaume for sending me this. Really appreciate it. Real good stuff. All right, thanks for your time, and we'll see you on the next video.
Electric Cafe.